and it's about what happens to Lucy, the main character, on the day America went dark. And more importantly, on the day the lights came back on. The fictional world that I would like to create is Charm Hawaii. That's being rebuilt the day after the American Patriarchy collapsed. It's an alternate reality. It is not real. It is fiction, and I cannot express that enough. In this fictional world, the people that belong in prison gets arrested, and the people who don't get released. And the people, the 99%, take back their country, and all the stuff is redistributed back from the 1% to the 99%, and a whole new world is rebuilt. And I want to imagine what that looks like, and I want you to help me build that imaginary world. And why? Because I think it's so helpful. I think an alternate reality reminds me of the hope, and I want that to remind you of the hope too. I'm going to tell you a quick story. Welcome to Charm Hawaii, the show where I invite you behind the scenes to join me on an interactive journey from pen to published. In this episode, I'm going to introduce you to the fictional town of Charm Hawaii, and we're going to discuss what life could be like if it looked differently. What if the system was built different? What if laws looked different? And what if our representatives represented us, the people, the 99%, instead of the 1%? In my fictional town, that's the way things are going to be because it's an alternate reality. So please join me and let's talk about it. I really appreciate you joining me on my very first episode that I'm so excited to get started. Hi, I'm Nadine, and I'm writing a 5-part series called Charm Hawaii that is the fictional retelling of true events and crimes that happened to me, or I'm attached to it in some kind of way. As I write the book, I'm going to tell you all about it and take you behind the scenes from pen to publish while you virtually vacation with me here in Hawaii. Hawaii is the setting of my books, and you're going to see and learn some honest history in some local places, but it's important to know that you are not getting a shiny, happy, fun content kind of page, okay? Just reality. If you're sensitive to raw and delicate subjects, this channel ain't for you. It's not a tourist, hey, come look at this, but it is, hey, you should know about this. You're going to read about this area in the book, so let's go there and take a little virtual vacation and learn about it. I would like to, in the future, introduce you to different people around the island, and we'll get back to that later. Charm Hawaii is a very fictional town, and like I said, it takes place in an alternate timeline. It's inspired by a unique book that was written by a nun called The Compassionate Community, and we're going to talk about that book too. The Compassionate Community was written by a nun who's a medical missionary sister who also has a PhD in psychology. Sadly, she has left this earth, but I hope to continue her work and spread her word by telling you about her book. If I'm lucky, we'll even be able to get them to republish it, and what I'd love to do is be able to distribute that book and be able to raise funds for the Medical Missionary Sisters, an organization that just celebrated its 1-year anniversary. So wouldn't it be great to celebrate its birthday with a generous donation? Can you help me with that? I don't know what I'm doing, but I do know I have to ask the publication company. So I'm going to figure that out later. But for now, if you could leave in the comments that you would like to see this when we're done, you're going to want to read this book. Let me know, okay? And if I can get 100 likes, then I'm going to reach out and ask them, can we get this book republished? Can I sell it? And can I donate all the profits to this amazing organization? Why do I want to do that? Because I want to put my money where my mouth is, and I don't have any money. So this is my way of doing that. What am I talking about? All right, well, let's get into it. It has everything to do with my book, okay? My series is 5 parts, and the books are Book 1, Pineapple Pirates of the Caribbean. Number 2 is McNDA. Number 3 is All the Queen's Men. Number 4 is Backward Pawn. And number 5 is Charm. And each one, you'll be introduced to all sorts of crimes, criminals, bad guys, flying monkeys, enablers, all sorts of stuff. And you're going to learn all sorts of different labels and what red flags are, green flags are. A lot of you know this stuff, but we're going to expand on that, and we're going to talk about it with fictional people in a fictional way, because I think it's a really fun way to to learn about this stuff, okay? So it's not going to be dark. It is a murder mystery. That part is not true. There was no murder, so there's no mystery to be solved in real life, but it's the other stories are very much real. Well, inspired by reality, okay? Some of the characters will be revealed. The ones who are not, I beg of you, please do not go looking for them. Their names do not matter, but their stories do, and it's best that they are left alone. And I really, really hope they leave me alone and do not bother me when it comes to this book. I know they're listening right now. We all know that, don't we? Anyway, you're gonna meet about, 15 to 20 narcissists, sociopaths, psychopaths, people like that. I just happen to be born into a world where I'm just surrounded by them, and that's okay. It took me a long time to heal and learn and understand why I had this cycle of stalkers and people that I would piss them off so bad that they just wanted to end me. It's happened so many times, and it took me a long time to figure out why. I don't think I'll ever have a real answer to that, but what I needed to learn was what my role was so that it never happens again. I thought it was all about romantic partners, the ones that hold you back and hold you down and get in your way and create obstacles for no reason other than to hurt you or get back to you in some twisted way. I didn't know that not everybody is as sadistic and insane as some of the things that my ex did and some former friends of mine did. To me, it was just normal. I just thought everybody got kidnapped and drugged and you know what happens next. I just thought that was normal. It never even occurred to me to go to the police. What I did do was tell friends. And I learned the hard way what a terrible idea that was. I was a teenager the first time I got taken, and it wasn't the last. I was a teenager the first time I was stalked, and that certainly was not the last. I was a teenager the first time somebody tried to unalive me, and I sat there going, what did I do? I don't know how I got on this person's radar, let alone for them to stalk me. And other ones was quite obvious. For example, one stalker, you'll read about him in All the Queen's Men. He just was somebody that I worked with, and he didn't want to accept no as an answer. I wasn't interested in somebody like him, and things escalated really bad. You'll read all about it in the book and as we go on behind the scenes, but to me, I just thought that was normal. And then I realized patterns matter, and the more I learned and the more I grew and the more I studied, the more things made sense and the more things clicked. And that's how I kind of figured out that my life is kind of weird. Maybe I can help people by telling my story, not to tell my story for any kind of sympathy, or anything gross like that, but as a teaching lesson, as a way to educate. I love movies, I love books, I love that stuff. I just think it's such a wonderful tool to teach people, and maybe that's because my parents and my family kind of used it as a tool for education for me. For example, at my school, I went to a Catholic school, and every year they would send us on a specific march in Washington, and my mom allowed me to go, but she definitely felt some kind of way that I couldn't quite understand. So she didn't really know how to verbalize that. Looking back, I don't think she had the words and the tools to explain to me why it's so much bigger than just a simple choice of this isn't for me. It's so much bigger than that. So she rented a movie called If These Walls Could Talk, and we watched it, and it changed my life. If you can get a hold of that movie, I highly recommend it. It was back in the 90s, so I don't remember what year it came out or where it's streaming, but if you can find it, and I'll look when I'm done, and if I find it, I'll stick it up here, or in the comments or whatever. I'm sorry, I'm figuring this out as I go. I'm a little bit messy about this. Let me tell you a little bit about me, and then we'll go ahead and talk about the fictional town of Charm, Hawaii, because that's what I would like you to help me with. I'm writing a book, and the story's already been written because it's already happened, except for the murder part. That part is going to be a lot of fun. Not to sound like a weirdo, but the details of what mountain should she throw this man off of, or push him, or whatever. What should she eat for breakfast before she does that? Who should she eat with? You know, things like that I think would be a lot of fun. That's where I want help with. What should we name the cat? What should we name the friend? What should we name such and such? For now, I gave all the villains a bunch of nicknames. So you're gonna meet Pappy Pirate, Countess Olaf, Mr. Burns Wart. I gave them all funny names like that because I thought it would just be easier to identify, instead of something like asking you to remember the character Tommy. I'm going to ask you to remember Pappy Pirate, and you're going to know that he's attached to Book 1, Pineapple Pirates of the Caribbean. He just happens to be one of the main antagonists, one of the malignant narcissists. Like, in the book, because I'm not trying to give away anybody's real-life diagnosis or anything, I'm not doing that, but I am saying in the book, this guy is diagnosed with antisocial personality disorder and God knows what else, and that makes him incredibly dangerous. He has spent his entire life creating a facade, and he just is a little chameleon. So anytime he meets somebody new, he's a whole new person, and he is just exactly who that person needs and wants at that very moment. It's incredible. He takes his time, and he finds people, and he inserts himself into their lives. And he takes his time, and he befriends them, and it doesn't matter if it takes years. He just leeches off people and sucks the life out of them until there's nothing left, and then he discards them. Sometimes, if you're really lucky, like me, he comes back over and over just to see if you're still there and what he can take from you. I never heard of the word post-separation abuse until a couple of years ago, and it helped me tremendously. People don't want to hear about it. My friends and family just want to say that I'm still obsessed, or I can't get over it, or I still love him, and none of those things are true. None of them wanted to believe that he is one of the worst human beings that have ever crossed their path, and that he is greatly capable of horrible things, and the things that he has done to me and our child are unbelievably horrible. The things that he has done to other people, he made somebody go to prison for 7 years for a crime that he committed, and then he turned around and robbed him too. And guess what? He sucked me into that. And I'm going to tell you all about it in the future. I'm telling you this because I want to tell you all about him so that you don't become his next victim. I hate to say this, but he's up to no good because that's the only thing he knows how to do. And right now, anybody can be his next victim. Nobody is safe from him at all. He is so good that he even managed to rip off a climate change wannabe activist. What is she? She was more of like a tech bro than she was a climate activist, but maybe not. I don't really know her story and I don't want to, but he managed to steal a $400,000 luxury yacht from her and get away with it. Totally got away with it. And contrary to every white woman stereotype, this lady just let him. She just let him. It's weird, right? This crime lasted a couple years, and somehow I got involved. And guess what? I actually have a lot more to do with this than I would like to admit, but it's kind of the whole point of the book. I don't get mad, I get even. And instead of confronting my ex and telling him, I know all the horrible things you did, and I understand why you're so mad now, I'm going to tell you all about him. First, I keep going off track. Let's go ahead and talk about the future. You'll find that I might sound a little bit bitter, as people like to tell me, against white men, because I keep saying there is nothing more predatory to me as a human being, as a white man. There is nothing more dangerous than a white man. In my experience, and statistically proven to back me, is the fact that there is nothing more dangerous to me than a fucking white guy. And right behind that is a fucking white woman. And guess what? My entire book is going to explain to you what I mean about that. It's not my fault that all of these people that did me dirty just happen to be white, except for one. But statistically, that adds up, doesn't it? The people in my books also reflect statistics, because about 30% are women. And they're all white women. And they are all so damningly terrible people that I'm going to tell you all about them first, because right now, white women are being pretty terrible across the board. Not all of us, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I know. But if your knee-jerk reaction is to feel some kind of way or offended, if you're a white lady, if you're offended by me or anybody else saying that white women are the men of women, then you're like, I invite you to sit and listen and put some space before your reaction and listen to what people are saying. Because think about when you say something to your husband and they just refuse to hear it. It's frustrating, isn't it? It's very frustrating. And you keep at it, and then one day the light bulb comes on. Sometimes it's great, sometimes it's too late. But in my opinion, there's no such thing. But men, particularly white men, the ones in my life, I have no problem addressing certain things that they say or do. I talk about misogyny. I talk about, I'll go toe-to-toe with anybody. I'll go toe-to-toe with anybody. And you know why? Because I had a very fierce grandfather. He was an incredible human being, and he was the brother of the incredible nun who wrote the book that I'm going to read to you in a little bit. I can't read the whole thing, but I am going to read excerpts from it. And if you don't get chicken skin, then I don't know what to tell you, but her words are incredible. My grandfather and her were both born in the 30s back in Philadelphia, and they Irish Catholic family, and just, I think there was 6 or 8, I don't remember, I should know this, but in a little row house in Philadelphia, in Fishtown. And my aunt grew up to be a nun who really gave her everything to the community. And she believed so firmly that the root cause of all of our systemic problems were traced back to poverty and traced back to the way that our country dehumanizes people and uses and abuses them, and that the whole world could be a better place if we would just stop doing that. I'm taking that a step further to say that systemic racism is the biggest hindrance of very much everybody, even white people. This hierarchy nonsense is bullshit, and it is so detrimental to everybody, especially anybody who is not white. And then behind that, white women, and then behind that, white men. But there is nobody that this benefits unless you're at the top 1%. And arguably, that does not benefit them either, because look at them. Look at them. I'm sorry, but they need help. If they were my family, they would be 302'd. They would. I would be like, bro, you need some fucking help. You need to touch grass. Go in the woods and meditate and get medical professional help. With the Western and Eastern medicinal, nature needs to be involved heavily, and primarily, of course, people that shouldn't even help them, really, but I bet you they would, because they're good people. The native people of this land, they got more answers than any of these nonsense sci-fi white dudes that have scrambled their own brains. I'm sorry, but they ain't right. And I just because lots of things can be true at once. I can feel bad for them. I feel especially bad for their family. But I'm incredibly furious, angry, scared. Very scared, but not enough to shut the fuck up. I'm scared to the point where I am going to speak the fuck out. I've learned, unbeknownst to me, I was just very naive and clueless to this whole white people thing. I did not grow up with white being any part of my identity whatsoever. I was raised in American mud. My grandmother is all sorts of different, she's a mix of whatever. And same with my grandfather, and same with my mom and my dad, right? And then same with me. And you know what? Like, what's so funny is there's so many things that are a part of my life, the strongest pieces of my life do not even connect to my heritage, because my heritage just doesn't mix. I don't know how to word that correctly. Like, okay, so my name is Nadine, and my mother gave me that to honor my French heritage. And she believed with her whole chest that we had a lot of French in us. I believed it too, because her dad told her that, and his dad told him that, etc., etc. And then Ancestry comes along, and I don't have a job, guys. I don't have a job. I think it's kind of funny, but I don't have any French. I don't have any Italian in me either. The main food that I grew up on was Italian food, and lots of Italian people in my life. Lots of time in South Philly, lots of time with family and friends, and to me, that was just normal. When I was little, nobody explained to me how all that worked. You can laugh, and that's okay, but younger me just did not make the connection that my aunt was not actually Italian whatsoever. She married an Italian guy, and she spent a lot of time in the Italian neighborhoods when she was younger, and her son had a very Italian sounding name, and so did she, and she just kind of went with it, I don't know, and just blended in to her new life. So I just thought she was Italian. She was not Italian at all. My grandfather's side, they're not 100% Irish. I just remember that. They're Scottish and a few other things. I don't even know. But if you were to ask my great-grandfather, he was all, we're 100% Irish. If you were to ask my uncle, he would say, no, we're not. And that's why I'm wearing the Scottish kilt and marching in a parade, which would really bother my great-grandpa, which was kind of comical now looking back. They would argue about what their heritage was. And I would sit there, I don't even know. You know, we went to a family reunion of my dad's one of his closest friends, and my parents' close friends, and that was somewhere down in Georgia or North Carolina. I don't remember. I'm sorry. I was young, and we were the only white people for miles, and it did not occur to me at all that they weren't literally my cousins. Okay, it did not occur to me, and I didn't even ask, and we just had fun. I did learn a lot. I'll talk about that another time, but I just kind of wanted to tell you a little bit about my background, I guess. And here we are, and I am off track once again. I do apologize. I hope you get used to me. I'm trying so hard to stay on track, but the whole ADHD thing, I'm still trying to harness the right way of living. I'm trying to learn how my brain operates, and I've come so far. So I'm asking you to please bear with me. What I'm trying to say, and thank you for bearing with me, is that the world that I'm creating, this fictional world, is going to be kind of reflective of the innocent world that I knew before I was aware of the reality of the way things are. I still have so much learning to do, and I always will, and I'm always going to be a work in progress. But for me, just because I was raised in diversity and had a lot of it around me, and it was just normal, nobody talked about that. So I guess I feel like I got a head start than some people who were raised so much different than me that it was quite a culture shock when I moved from the Philadelphia area to Hawaii. I moved to a very strange town, and I had no idea what I was in for. I was very naive. I met white people for the first time. For me, it was very important to my grandmother to not say that I was a white person or have any kind of affiliation with anything like that. For her and my whole family, it was very important that I was always surrounded by all different people, but it was never spoken about. So therefore, I got a head start, but it wasn't enough. It wasn't like what my kids are getting. My kids are getting a head start, and then their kids will have a head start on understanding, accepting, and being aware of the realities that America was built on systemic racism on the backs of slaves, especially Black women, and it still is, and it continues, and it's not okay to say that it wasn't. It's not okay to say that Indigenous people were erased. It's not okay. Just because we learned about them a little bit doesn't mean they weren't erased. They were literally erased. And if you don't believe me, take some time and learn about that. A lot of people were erased, and it's not okay to pretend they weren't. But on the other hand, we need to honor different cultures that aren't ours or ones that are. I grew up not knowing anything. I have zero sense of identity when it comes to a community that I can pinpoint or that I grew up in. I grew up going to the Polish festival every year, but I'm not even Polish. I don't have a drop of Polish, and that's something we never thought we did. We knew we weren't Polish. However, every year we look forward to the Polish festival, and we would go and we eat a ton of Polish food because that's where the area that we ended up living in, there was a lot of Polish people, so a lot of Polish food. No big deal. I grew up on a lot of Jewish food too. My grandmother's best friend was a survivor, and I learned a lot from that. And the food I grew up on was pretty basic, really. My family wasn't really big into cooking, but I'm jealous, but in a good way, when people talk about their heritage and they do parades and events. I think that's so cool. I would love to be able to participate in something like that. And I guess really the Mummers Parade is about the closest I got to having anything that I can personally relate to. It's like, I guess that's about it. The Mummers Parade would honor my heritage of Philadelphia coursing through my veins, even though I don't live there anymore. And I miss it. I really do. I miss it so much. And my family goes so far back to Philadelphia before it was even a city. And learning about my own heritage and my own family really taught me a lot about myself. And moving here to a neighborhood that was predominantly military and predominantly white compared to the rest of the area, I didn't do my homework, and I did, but I didn't know what that meant. I just was, this works. We needed a place to live, and we just moved there because it was easy. Wow, what a mistake. I would describe it as my hell loop. When it first started, it was fine. It was nice. It was lovely. There was a pool. There was people. There was a school. There was a store I wasn't allowed to shop in because I didn't know that you had to only be military. And I had no idea what the military lifestyle was like, nor what it meant to be a civilian living in a predominantly military neighborhood. I'm going to talk all about that in my fourth book, Backward Pawn, and that's where you're going to meet the boss level of all white people that I've encountered. She was terrible. The things that this woman has accomplished in her life are nothing but negative and detrimental to other people. She's horrible, and she has the same pattern over and over and over, and they involve lies, narcissistic smear campaigns, setting people up, lies, all sorts of lies, involving other people to lie on her behalf, to cover for her, and to just prop her up as, like, I didn't understand white woman tears until I met her. I've heard about them in the past, and I made the mistake of assuming that other people lived the kind of life that I did. And I had no idea what privileged white people grow up very, very differently than I did. And Southern white people grow up differently. And privileged Southern white people are a whole different ballgame. And that's the kind of lady that fucked me up good. She actually opened up my eyes to the cycle, and it put me into quite a state of, I don't know what's happening, but I've seen this before. So once I realized that she was unhinged and creating an atmosphere for me that I didn't approve of with all these lies on me, I just picked up and moved. I didn't address her, and I didn't deal with it. I just bounced, and that messed her up. And good for me. And I'm going to continue messing her up with this book. And she's probably listening to this right now, but I'm not going to tell you her dumb name because it don't matter. Please do me a solid and don't look her up. You can look up Jeff all you want. We're going to talk about the real life inspiration behind one of the main antagonists. Happy Pirate is a main antagonist that will be all throughout the books, and then each book you'll meet another kind of main guy that will focus on that specific book. So you're going to meet Countess Olaf. She is the, I don't want to use the word queen, but if I had to, I'm going to go with queen of all white women assholes. Like, oh my god, like, she's a problem not just for white people, but obviously anybody in her orbit. I should have known when I met her, but I didn't listen to my own gut. I just said, you're judging, you're overreacting. She don't mean it like that. She's just stressed from traveling or whatever. I would make up excuses, and it took me a long time to understand, a lot of therapy, a lot of reflection, and a full-on collapse of exhaustion, and that's a story for another day, that led me to a whole new life of freedom and happiness. I know that sounds silly, but I couldn't understand why I was so upset that this lady was stalking me and she ruins my business, my reputation. I didn't care about that, but I was so scared of what she was going to do next, and I couldn't understand that because she's not a scary person. She's weak, she's fugly, and she's stupid. So it was like, why am I so upset over this lady? She's certainly a loser. I'll be okay, but I learned that I was triggered, that my memory may have suppressed things, but my body remembered. So having a panic attack when she would drive by me and take my picture, or drive by my house, or talk to my children when she knew she wasn't supposed to, it would send me into a crippling fear and anger to the point where I could not even approach her because I knew I was going to catch a charge. You know, when you're that mad at somebody, and I was like, I don't know why I'm this angry, because I couldn't tone that down, and I was like, I don't know what's going on here. I know something's going wrong. Something is very, very wrong. And what was happening, I found out later, I realized after doing the work, that she had started a 6-month smear campaign on me that all came to a head at one party, and the results of it was astounding. And it wasn't that event, anything like that, it was the afterwards. The afterwards is what messed me up. And it turned out that I was right. This woman is dangerous, and the more I learned about her, I was very right to walk away. And if I can tell you anything about narcissists and highly toxic people, you need to walk away, and you need to block them in real life and in social media. It is not worth it to even engage. And when you don't engage, it fucks them up. And I promise you, karma will pay them back. Karma has taken care of every single person that I crossed paths with that went out of their way to stalk me or set me up for something. And I know that sounds, oh wow, Nadine, talk about being a victim. But no, I actually was a victim to these things. And I'm going to explain it very clearly in my book series. As I write it, I want you to read it, not the whole thing, just parts of it. And I want you to learn about the characters and the place and everything else, which brings me to the topic that I'm supposed to be talking about, is the fictional town. Because that is where I need the most help with. This fictional town is not the one that I just described. That would be one, we're going to talk about that too. And you can help me write that one too. That one needs a name still. But that town, that weird little town where I met this lady, it's gonna be Stepford Wives meets Top Gun, okay? If Top Gun military wives ran a neighborhood of Stepford Wives, it would look like the place that I moved into. I swear to God. I wish I was exaggerating, but I am not that creative at all. I am not a creative person. I try to be a good storyteller, but inventing stories is not something I'm so great at. But I'm gonna give it a try with this murder mystery thing. And that's why I need your help, okay? Help me imagine details. So the neighborhood that Lucy, that's the main character's name, moves to restart her whole life, to get away from Pappy Pirate, get her kids safe, and just start over, get away from old stalkers, get away from people who have been trying to hurt her for a very long time. And for the first time in her life, she was able to just go to the grocery store or go to a restaurant or a beach or be anywhere in public and know that she was safe. She did not ever experience that in her entire life. So for her, moving to Hawaii was not about beaches and fun. It was about safety, peace, and being so far secluded from bad people that wanted her gone. That's why she moved there. And when she decides to pick up and leave that place and never look back at any cost, she finds herself in the exact opposite. And she creates a brand new life for herself and her family, and she is happy and she thrives. And you're gonna help me invent that imaginary world. The setting is gonna be set in the future, 5 years out in 2030. And in this imaginary world, back in 2025, there's gonna be a day where America goes dark. And it's gonna be okay. Everybody's gonna be guided through it, and it's gonna last 36 hours, and the book's not about that. It's about what happens afterward, and it's about what happens to Lucy, the main character, on the day America went dark. And more importantly, on the day the lights came back on. The fictional world that I would like to create is going to be Charm Hawaii, and that's going to be being rebuilt the day after the American Patriarchy collapsed. Like I said, it's an alternate reality. It is not real, it is fiction, and I cannot express that enough. And all of this is my opinions, and I don't really need anybody bothering me. So I'm gonna try to talk, openly as I can. But in this fictional world, the world as we know it, everybody gets arrested, but not everybody. The people that belong in prison gets arrested, and the people who don't get released. And the people who were the 99% take back their country, and all the stuff is redistributed back from the 1% to the 99%, and a whole new world is rebuilt. And I want to imagine what that looks like, and I want you to help me build that imaginary world. And why? Because I think it's so helpful. I think an alternate reality reminds me of the hope, and I want that to remind you of the hope too. I'm going to tell you a quick story, and then I'm going to wrap this up and start on with number 2. But real quick, when I was a little girl, I had the coolest friends in the world. She had curly blonde hair and a cute accent because she was from England and Canada. And she moved to the little tiny town that I lived in. And we were friends. And we went to the same preschool. And I think we were like 2 or 3 when we started. I don't know. My mom worked. I think her parents did too. And we were so close. We were so weird. And we would play games where we would build with our blocks, and we would be mechanics as 2 adorable little girls playing mechanic, and we would sing Billy Joel's Uptown Girl. We would sing that, and Roy Orbison's Pretty Woman. Pretty Woman was our favorite song. I don't know why, but we just loved it. And we would sing that while we played mechanic, doing these typically, boy things. We weren't really interested in Barbie. We wanted to be mechanics, women mechanics, and we loved it. And we had so much fun, and we really kind of enjoyed and appreciated each other's weirdness, and we were so close. And one day, her mom sat us down and told us that she was ill and she wasn't gonna live very long. And her illness did escalate quite quickly. I remember her mom showing to me what could happen if we played too rough and she touched her and she immediately got a bruise. What was happening is she had a rare disease called aplastic anemia, and her body was attacking itself. And they needed to find a donor in time to save her, and they were really, really hopeful. And while they did that, and Katie went to the hospital, my mother so awesomely would bring me there. And I can describe that hospital room down to the paper lying on the door and the big giant squares on the floor. And the bed that she laid in and the cartoons that we would watch. And sometimes we would just watch in silence. And nurses would just be like, wow, are they sisters? And my mom would say, no, she just knows she doesn't want her to get hurt. She just wants to be there with her. And I was. Until one day, she wasn't here anymore. And I very much remember the day my mom sat me down and I interrupted her before she even started. And I said, hey, no, Mom, the angels took Katie and she doesn't hurt anymore. She's happy now and it's okay. And I was never the same. I think I was about 5 years old. And I've carried her, a piece of her in my heart this whole time. And I feel that I have to live a little bit bigger to honor her. And someday I hope to be able to achieve that. But for me, alternate realities or the idea of maybe there's another place where it was the opposite way, and Katie was alive and well, and she got to grow up, that she would have done things right and that she would have been really, really happy. And that gave me comfort that she wasn't here anymore, because being without her, that was really hard. But it's okay. That's life. I learned from a young age that people pass away and sometimes friends just stop being friends, and that's okay. Like, life is quite delicate. And I don't think we should spend this time fighting or pointing fingers or disliking each other just because they're different. It makes no sense to me. I want to talk about what could a world look like if we didn't live like that. I guess you could say, raised colorblind, but what I was trying to say earlier is the part that I was lacking is being able to honor other people's heritage and everything that comes with it. And I want to talk about what would a world that happens looks like. And my aunt wrote an incredible book that kind of describes that in her theories of what would happen if we continued on the path that we were on all the way back in 1998 when she published this book. And guess what? Spoiler alert, she was right. She nailed it. And she also believed in hope and change. And she believed that the future's greatest would be ideal if we were all equal and diverse and equity and inclusion. She didn't have those terms for that, but that's exactly what she writes about. And it's not scary. It's nothing to be feared. And if you do fear it, I ask you to sit with me and listen to her words. And let's talk about it. And let's design a world, a fictional world together of what it would look like 5 years out after it's rebuilt in this imaginary world. Because to me, I need comfort. I need to hold on to hope, because the other side of that coin is despair. So like my friend, I couldn't be in despair that I was going to be next, because for a minute, that's where I was. I was afraid that at any minute, those angels were going to come for me too. And then one day I thought, I can't live like this. I need to live with hope that everything's going to be all right. And I need to live bigger and live in a way that makes people around me have a good experience. I don't know how else to put that. Some people go out of their way to hurt people, and I don't understand that either. But I'm going to talk about it all in my books, and I really hope that you join me and that you'll follow me from pen to published, and that you'll help me create this fictional world. In the next episode, I'm going to go ahead and read excerpts from this and explain more heavily about the world of charm. I'm sorry I didn't get into that in this. I thought I was going to, but I did not stick to my script at all. So I'm learning. I'm just going to go with, I gotta stop beating a dead horse and trying to stick with a script that I clearly am not designed to do. So please bear with me, and thank you so much for joining me. Welcome to Charm Hawaii. Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is not meant to be a lecture. It's meant to be an open discussion and talk about whatever we should talk about in the comments, except for, let's get this book published. Let me get 100 likes and I'll reach out and ask how much can I read of this book and how can we get this redistributed, because it's an incredible book. I'm telling you, you're going to want to read it. It's going to give you chicken skin, and I'm only going to read you tiny little parts of it. It's called The Compassionate Community: Strategies That Work for the Third Millennium, written by Catherine Harmer. She was a nun and a PhD, and she just happened to be my aunt. And I want to tell you all about her, okay? So join me for my next episode. Thank you so much.